made 13 picks. Blows my mind. Still, a couple days later, good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates that I hope you'll take the time to check out. 13 picks were made by Kyle Dubas and his staff in the NHL Draft over the weekend. And I'd ask only in jest if they even have enough space contractually for all these players if they ever get good. But the reality is, this is kind of the scope of what was needed. I loved the way Wes Clark, the team's vice president of player personnel, put it after the draft was complete at the team's temporary headquarters downtown.
Yeah, 13 picks is a lot. They're not all going to work out. Obviously, the more lottery tickets you have, increases your chances to hopefully hit. So, we'll see as time progresses with the development staff at TK and all the new bodies that we have in the system. Be interesting to see who develops quicker than others and who can get there at the end.
The TK to whom Clark referred, by the way, was Tom Kostopoulos, Director of Player Development, who's going to be a really, really busy dude. Now, we could all make ourselves really busy, too, in attempting to analyze all of this. 13 picks is 13 picks. The first thing that pops to my mind in eyeing the class as a whole is that it is spread out. It's diverse. 8 forwards, 4 defensemen, the obligatory goaltender. And you do always have to take a goaltender with each draft. Some things never change in this sport. Some skill, some size, some snarl, some familiarity, some local. And yet the only thing that they do truly have in common is what Clark said, which is that they're lottery tickets and that we don't know, but we do know. And there's only about 100 years of precedent to support it, that the more of these players you have, the greater the chance enough of them will pan out. So I will pause here to figuratively applaud what happened this weekend, acknowledging that it also leaves open the possibility that it could be the most catastrophic class in franchise history if all 13 of them were to bomb, but that's immensely unlikely. I also feel compelled, and hear me out on this, to point out something else. Do you remember in any of those various Dubas sessions over the past couple of years where he would take the time to really attempt to lay out what it is that he and his staff are hoping to achieve? Grand scale outlook. And he would, more than once, bring up that the accumulation of all these draft picks that he's piled up over the years could be and ultimately should be turned into assets that are more current, that are closer to the stated, and by the way, this weekend reiterated, objective of coming to Pittsburgh while Sidney Crosby is still Sid, that he'd say, well, you could trade the picks for players who are ready now. You could trade the picks to move up and get higher picks, or you could trade the picks for other teams' slightly older, slightly more advanced prospects. Remember all that? Well, 2 things happened this weekend, according to Dubas himself. One, he'd hoped to get into the top 10. He let those teams know that the Penguins wanted to get into the top 10. He was ready to make moves, and he didn't detail what kind to get there. He was unsuccessful. As I had mentioned to you last week, I was really skeptical that any of those teams, and I remember reading all 10 of them off to you, would have enough incentive to move out. They all needed something up there. And sure enough, that's how it played out. Not one team left any of those 10 slots. Now, Dubas did utilize other picks through other trades and other kinds of moves to get into higher spots at different points in different rounds, but not in this one, not in the first round. Second, and I had expressed a lot of skepticism about this, I don't know which teams anywhere would be interested, much less eager, to give up, let's say, I don't know, a 19 or 20-year-old in their system for a draft pick, unless the draft that would be taking place would be seen as some sort of epic transformational thing where it runs, I don't know, 40 or 50 players deep, and you're really confident that whatever 18-year-old you might get is going to be better than the 19 or 20-year-old that you already know something about from having them under your roof for a year or two. Follow me on this? Well, this didn't happen either. Not for Pittsburgh, not for any team, at least not that I'm aware of. So whether there was some big realization that happened for Dubas or his staff, or it was just coincidence, the Penguins ended up doing the one thing that you're supposed to do when you have a lot of draft picks, and that's draft a lot of players. And somehow within that, Dubas ends up turning that into even more picks and even more players, and that's just fine. Even within this whole Sid context, Ben Kindle's not a big player, the 11th overall. He visibly needs to add significant strength, and within that, of course, bulk. I happen to believe he needs a lot of that down low for additional leg strength, for additional length in his stride that can create a much more centered and authoritative skater, but I also don't know that he's a million miles away. Bill Zonon, big dude, 22nd pick overall, has a significant scoring touch and the productivity to match. Will Horkoff, 24th overall, has outstanding size for a forward prospect at 6'5". He also can still fill out. He's got net front want to. He's got net front capability. Peyton Kettles, the 39th overall pick, will look down on Horkoff. Kettles is 6'6". He's a defenseman. He was Owen Pickering's partner in juniors, and he's seen as big-time physical. So that's 4 picks inside the top 40 for a team that, for the most part, over the past decade and change, hasn't had any in the top 40 year after year after year. And it doesn't have to stop here. There are teams that are looking to move young players in the same spirit that Winnipeg moved Rutger McGroarty to the Penguins in exchange for Braden Yeager last summer. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Fight it out. Drop the gloves at development camp. I don't care. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Joel, who says, DK, AI tells me that 30% of the players in the National Hockey League are Europeans. 3 of the Penguins' projected top 6 forwards for next year are Europeans. And yet the Penguins just drafted 13 North American prospects over the weekend. Last year, 5 of their 6 draft picks were North Americans. Assuming Europeans make up 30% of the prospect talent pool, the odds of the best available prospect being North American 13 times in a row is less than 1%. This seems like a pretty big red flag. It seems like we're mostly ignoring 30% of the global prospect pool, and I'd guess that the North American prospects are covered a lot more thoroughly by NHL scouts, which means we're less likely to uncover hidden gems in North America than in Europe. If we need new high-end talent and don't have low draft picks, that seems like the wrong strategy. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. You know, my first thought, Joel, is that I just said in the opening segment that I really appreciated and even applauded the overall diversity of the class. I was referring, of course, to positions. I was not referring to nationalities. I have two things to say on this. One is that nationalities aren't what they used to be in terms of defining the type of hockey players that you get. And I can go in either direction on this. Skill has become a North American thing. It's back in the game, and it's back in a big, big way, including at the youth levels. The focus on improving skill even extends into the NHL now, where most teams have a skills type coach the way the Penguins had in Ty Hennes under Mike Sullivan. So where there used to be this thing, oh, he's Russian, he must be really, really skilled. Or he's Swedish, he must be really, really defensively responsible. It's all basically mixed up now. Not completely, especially not in the team sense. You'll see in the Olympics this winter in Italy that national identities are still very much a thing in hockey. But when it comes to individual talents, you're now almost as likely to see an Austin Matthews come out of Arizona as you are to see an Eetu Luostarinen come out of Finland. Now, the second thing that I have to say on this, and it's going to sound completely contradictory, is I happen to agree with you. I do believe that there's a lot that happens in a hockey player's life that occurs very early in that life and is mostly irreversible once it does. And I do also believe, although I'm not sitting here looking at a spreadsheet and sharing this thought with you, that an outsized percentage of the European players who are in the NHL, who do come over here to play, are those who are of the greatest skill. Why? Because they're most likely to come over here for the money, because they're most likely to be paid the money if they can do the single most important thing in the sport, which is to contribute to scoring. Now, I know for a fact that the Penguins are scouting European players. I know for a fact that Kyle Dubas himself made flights to Europe to watch players himself that he ended up bypassing in the first couple of rounds. So I really don't know that there's enough of a pattern here. I really don't, to take this any further, but I do appreciate you bringing it up. And heck, it might be something that I bring up with them at some stage of this summer. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow.